Can you tell Krishna to help me let everybody in? Wow, this is insane. Why would that happen? Yeah, tell her to help me. Tell her to help me make sure she's there admitting everybody as they're joining, please.
There you are, Mr. Morel.
Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm doing great.
So I do not know what's going on, but my internet service literally just decided to turn off on me. So I'm here on my cell phone.
All
I
good.
hope we can figure this out. My apologies.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Just make sure that you're making it to where people can't unmute themselves without you doing it.
Yeah, got it, which is going to be interesting. Anyhow, I just want to make sure, is the quality okay? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's great, man. It's great.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for being
Fantastic.
with us, man. We're excited.
I'm excited to be here.
Long time no see, man. I'm usually watching you jog down a road, making, giving us some good ideas and some good stuff to think about, giving us a little bit of financial IQ, which has been a popular thing as of late, which I love.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, just trying to raise and elevate people's consciousness and help them know sell more houses at the same time.
Yeah, man, that's great. That's great. Well, hey, it's awesome to be with you. Technology is always the game that we're always having to play with. So one, thank you. I mean, it's been so great to reconnect over the last few months, just from every, we obviously have a long history together, and I consider you a dear friend. You're one of those guys that I wish I saw more often. So it's so good to be with you, and thank you for spending time with us.
I'm excited to be here. It's an honor to speak in front of your group. You know, it's interesting. There's maybe 3-4 real estate companies in North America that I think have the ability to genuinely provide great value for their agents, and you're one of them. And you know the other 3.
Thank you.
So it's really an honor.
One of them's got to be yours too, man.
Yeah, we're one of them. Yeah,
you got to be one of them, right? So now there's only 2 more in the entire country.
There's only 2 more. Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That's good. Well, hey, all right. So hey, give us, because there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna be on this, and gosh, we've got what do we got? 61 people, and I'm sure more will come. And then you're recording it, we're recording it, so we're gonna push that out on social media, because I know this is gonna be a really, really fun interview and time that we get to spend together. And so, look, just give us just a little bit of history of who you are and your beginnings and how you got into real estate and where you are today. And you don't need to take a lot of time on that. And then we'll get into some of the, of course, real issues of the day and how you're dealing with them and the messages that you're sharing and helping people to truly not only just survive, but really thrive through everything that we're going through.
Absolutely. Before we do that, George, Isaac, could you tell Krishna I need her like on the waiting room, because there's 15 people in there. She needs to literally just be admitting everybody, and or somehow fix the settings so that nobody has to wait. They can just come in. Okay, good. So gosh, I've been in the real estate industry now 24 years. I started off as a salesperson. Really, I cut my teeth at the swap meet, believe it or not, George, where I would sit there on Saturdays and Sundays, just kind of like meeting people as they kind of walk by my little post, right? And I'll never forget this.
Is that where you started selling real estate and had a booth and got to know?
That's where I started.
Okay, yeah. I did not know that story.
Yeah, that's where I started. And it was interesting because I met a guy, a real estate agent. I met him at a job fair at the time. George, hang on, because this is bothering me. I want to just admit all these people.
No, you're just fine. I know that their first few minutes here, we're going to have to be doing that. So knock it out of the park, especially with how we got started.
Yeah.
Well, as you're doing that, Danny, as you're doing that, I was reminded as you're saying the swap meet, my first 2 home sales were mobile homes, and they were not the type of mobile homes that sit in Malibu. They were the type of mobile homes that sit in a very small lot, and they were about $19,000, and they were in some pretty rough areas of Salt Lake City, at least as rough as Salt Lake City can at least get, right?
Yeah, and so that's how I started. It started with a dream. I wanted to buy my mother a house, and I started to save up a little bit of money. I was working 6 days a week at the time, George, and I went to a job fair of all places, and I met a real estate agent there, and I started asking him. I felt like I attracted him into my life. I started asking him about real estate and what it took to buy a house. And then I asked him the magic question, George. I said, is there any money in real estate? And he said, there is. Yeah, there is. And I go, well, is there like a lot of competition, or is there like enough money for me, And he says, yeah, no, there is. There's enough money for you. And I go, okay, great. And he says, if that's the case, I'll make you an offer you can't refuse. I said, I work 6 days a week now. I'll give you my Sundays. I don't need you to pay me a thing. I just want you to show me the industry. If you could just teach me the industry, that's all I would know. Because George, at a young age, I was 18, 19 years old back then. For some reason, I just believed more in the value of knowledge and what I could do with that knowledge. And I figured if I could just get this knowledge combined with my enthusiasm, my energy, my desire to win, then I can combine those 2 things and eventually make up on the money that was lost by working for free. And so that was my mindset back then. That's what started me in the industry.
That's great, man. I love that. That's fantastic. So today, tell us just a little bit about what you've accomplished and what you've done. And reason I want people to get to know you, and I certainly could express it, but I think, one, I've watched you build an incredible real estate company, which is where we got to meet. And we met at a Mike Ferry event years ago, which both of us have tremendous respect and love for the guy. Absolutely. And we're grateful for the things. And obviously we're taking what we believe those things to even to a higher level, and building on top of just a foundation. And from that standpoint, I guess I would just ask you, what's the foundation today that you are trying to build? What is it that, what is it that Danny is all about? And what are you trying to do? And how are you trying to make a difference in today's world?
Yeah, that's a great question, George. I'll tell you, I spent the majority of my life in the industry working my tail off. As an agent, I closed 150 deals. I did it in a very leveraged manner. I only worked 4.5 days a week. And then as a broker, I went out and kind of recreated myself. And we did $1.1 billion in sales, our best year recently. Last year, we missed $1 billion in sales by a little bit, but we're trending that way again this year right now. And I think the main thing that I want to get across to the real estate industry is that there's really 2 types of agents in our industry. And the first is a salesperson. And make no mistake about it, they see themselves as a salesperson. And yet the problem with that, George, is that they will, unless they make a shift, they will be a salesperson for the rest of their career. The second is a true business person. It's somebody that sees what they do in our industry as a business person, and they see sales as something that has to happen within a business for the business to function correctly. And there's a major shift that happens, George, when you start to see yourself as a business person. You start to change the way you manage your money. You start to change the way you manage your time. You start to change the way you manage your efficiency. You start to change the way you manage your marketing. You start to change the way you manage your database. Everything changes because
your operations, the whole thing.
Everything changes. Everything. The people you bring on, how you bring them on, everything changes. Because you no longer are existing, and I use that word existing, George. You're no longer existing to go out and hunt and make the kill. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You're existing to go out and find a beautiful seed that you can plant into the ground that can flourish, that eventually could feed you while you're hunting or not hunting. And that's the difference that has made the difference.
Great metaphor.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the difference that has made the difference in my life. And it's really what I'm all about right now. Is I'm all about showing real estate professionals, yes, they've got to be great salespeople, But more than anything, they've got to be great business people, you know? And if they're great business people, they will care and respect for their business, which will naturally make them great salespeople, which will naturally make them better with their finances, better with their time management, and all of the above. And more than anything, George, a business person is the one that gets all the freedom. And that's what I'm about right now. It's just getting freedom.
I love that.
You know?
Right. I love that. So talk a little bit about just our current set of circumstances and working as a business or even as a sales agent, right? Whatever their mindset is at this moment, there's a lot of people who are going through this grieving process, whether it's they're in that moment of sheer denial, like nothing's even happened, whether they're sitting there kind of, you know, they're very angry. There maybe be bargaining, pointing fingers. Someone should do this. The government should have done that. There's some people who are completely hopeless and down. Then there's people who have really come out and said, I realize where I am. Okay, let's restructure, let's redo, let's recraft our business plan. Let's re-identify with our goals. Where are we heading? And there's a whole series, right? I mean, you know this, you've seen this firsthand, is that you're seeing it all across the spectrum. But what would you say to the agent who is really struggling? And just for perspective, tell us where you live so that people know, because we've got a lot of people on the California side. Your brokerages, everything are in Southern California, right? And do you identify where those are? And the reason why I want you to is so that people can really identify with the message that it's not just some guy in Nebraska saying, hey, you should do this. It's a guy in the heart of our marketplace for California, and of course the heart for yours. So how do you help that person? What do you say to that person?
Yeah, so we have offices in Rancho Cucamonga, Corona, California, Palmdale, California, Victorville, California, Northridge, California, Downey, California, and then we've got a couple of people in the Oakland, San Francisco area as well. But look, George, this may not be a popular statement, and yet I believe it to be a true statement. And what I'm about to say, for those of you out there, if you're listening, please understand, all I want to do is help make an impact in your life and in your business, because I care deeply about George and John and the organization. And I've got to tell you something. My belief is this, is that coronavirus is like a magnifying glass, okay? Quarantine is like a magnifying glass, and it's showing you and revealing to you who you really are and what your business is really about. I once heard something. Yeah, I once heard something. I heard a statement that says, you know what, when these people win the lotto and they win like 20, 30 million bucks, right? It says the money is not the issue. The issue is that the money reveals who they really are as human beings, you know? And so I'll give you an example. If I'm the type of person that I'm afraid to pick up the phone to make a prospecting call, gosh darn it, I'm probably 10 times more scared of the coronavirus right now.
Right. That is so, yes.
If I'm the kind of person that feels let down, not to say we don't feel it as human beings, but that hasn't learned to manage the letdown of an appointment canceling on me, damn it, this quarantine right now, this is a major letdown, and I'm having a difficult time managing this. If I'm the kind of person that when someone goes with another agent on a listing appointment, or when an escrow cancels, it really just kind of bogs me down, then I got to tell you right now, I'm probably sitting, like, I'm probably hearing us, but I'm probably in my underwear on the couch eating bonbons, watching Netflix at the same time. You know what I'm saying? The coronavirus and this quarantine simply is either one of two things. Number one, the biggest obstacle you will ever face, or number two, the greatest opportunity you will ever come across. And I think,
dude, I'm writing notes myself, because man, this is powerful stuff. I love it.
Yeah, I happen to believe, George, I happen to believe that the way we see this situation, whether it's the greatest opportunity or the greatest letdown, George, and for all you people, please listen to me. That's exactly the way you see an appointment canceling on you, a deal about to fall out on you, an escrow canceling on you, an appointment rescheduling on you, issues in your personal life. It's the same way you see everything.
Everything gets exposed, right?
Absolutely, man, George. Business is really a reflection of the soul.
I was
That's
talking
what
to, we were
business
talking
is.
last week to a psychologist, and he put up his hand and he said, look, if there's been stuff over here that hasn't been that big of a deal, that's just kind of lingering, this virus, this quarantine, it has exposed it at levels that you can't even almost function on because
Right.
you didn't deal with it. But the thing is now here's the question. If they are now identifying with those things that they need to deal with, that they need to like channel like their energies, their efforts, how do you get someone to get on it and make those changes, even in the midst of everything? Maybe they get fearful, they get really let down on an appointment, or an escrow doesn't come together, or they don't get the listing. Those are all such good examples. How do you get them to where they take action?
Okay, so I would say, I think first you have to identify what those scenarios are in our industry, right? And so, and then we can talk about how to take action. So I'm going to break it down among 3 different pillars, right? The first one, if you're watching, just write down the word generate. Because whether you like it, realize it or not, the linchpin in your business, what allows you to survive, what allows you to thrive is your ability to generate business, okay? Now listen, I'll tell you something right now. I'm a great believer in phone prospecting. I'm a great believer in open houses. I'm a great believer, we kill it on Facebook ads. I'm a great believer in a database, right? So I'm the kind of guy that it's like, whatever makes you comfortable, right? And whatever makes you great, as long as you're doing it and you're mastering it, go out there and do it, right? And
So
yet the
make sure I'm clear on
reality
that.
is
Dan, let me just ask this. So in a nutshell, I just want to make sure there's no wrong way to approach leads as long as it's moral and ethical. Go after and master whatever part of the business lights you up, right? Whether it's your database, your sphere, paid advertising, pay-per-click, Facebook, what you name it.
Yes.
Do it.
Here's how I would recommend it, George. I teach it in my programs like this. There are a couple of different ways to generate leads. Number 1, write this down, everybody. Low leverage, high profit. Low leverage, high profit. So for example, for a long time in my business, I prospected and I was incredible at it. I closed expireds, I closed for sale by owners, like the best of them. My best month ever, I took 12 listings. And I'm not talking, I'm on stage at a seminar talking, I take 12 listings and all of them came from my database. No. I'm talking, they came from expireds or for sale by owners. Like this is where I went out and I hunted these people down and I got them, okay? The problem is that is high profit, very low leverage. In other words, what that means is I have very little leverage. All of that is depending on my personal enthusiasm, my personal mindset, and my personal skill. That makes sense, George? Yeah?
Yes, 100%. I love it.
Nothing wrong with it, however. The second one is high leverage, lower profit. High leverage, lower profit. So for example, we both come from this school that says, don't ever spend any money on advertising. I couldn't disagree more.
Right.
I couldn't disagree
Myself
more.
also.
Because if I spend $1,000 in advertising to get someone to join my company, my business, or to list with me, right? And the listing is gonna generate me $10,000, I'll cut you a check for $100 grand right now. Because the numbers just make sense. The numbers just make sense. Think about Apple, think about Pepsi, think about Coca-Cola, think about all major businesses.
There's a cost of good to every business.
Absolutely there is, right? So that's the second pillar. The third pillar is high leverage, high profit. And that's where things like your database come in. That's where things like your database come in, highly leveraged, but highly profitable. That's where things like sign calls come in, highly leveraged, highly profitable. I think the mistake that most of us are making is that we're not being true to ourselves about the fact that at the beginning, you gotta go all in with low leverage, high profit, because that's how you're gonna cut your teeth. That's how you're gonna learn objections. That's how you're gonna really get used to what no is. But then you can slowly transition out of that or replace yourself in that function. Make sense, George?
Totally. Hey, I love this. I hope everyone listening is like truly like that is a golden nugget, and nugget after nugget. I mean, I've already got a half a page of notes, and I'm the one doing the interview. I'm the one asking the questions. I got a half a page of notes going on here. So I love it, Danny. This is fantastic.
Yeah, and it is.
So, good.
And this is just, George, it's what we know. It's like what I did.
There's common. This is common sense to me, right? I mean, it's somehow that we get in this idea that there's a bad way to do business. Really, the question is, better questions are, how do we want to spend our time? How do we want to leverage? How do we want to lead? Do we want to build a business? Do we want to have more responsibilities than just ourselves? I mean, and not any one of them are wrong, as long as what you're doing is getting you and creating for you what you want out of your life. Bingo. That's the bottom line, right?
It is. And if I could share something with you guys, George, please, real fast. I'm going to give you guys a little nugget here. Hold on. I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to give you guys the Mount Rushmore of success real fast, because I think it ties in. The Mount Rushmore of success. You see, for many of us, we've been conditioned and taught to constantly be chasing this carrot, this carrot that's dangling. And maybe it's a bigger car, or maybe it's, 100 sales, or maybe it's, whatever it is, right? And here's another thing that has happened in my life. If I may, I realized that power and success was my pleasure principle. Power and success was my pleasure principle. And that's because I was around mentors that power and success was their pleasure principle. So I was just following what I was being taught. And what I realized, the true Mount Rushmore of success is the following. Number one, wellness. Write that down, please. Man, oh man, what good is it if you're making all the money in the world, but you're not well, especially right now? Number two is happiness. And I mean true inner happiness. Number three is enlightenment. Being able to see really with your higher consciousness. Number four is fulfillment, feeling fulfilled every single day. And then yes, number five is achievement. And then, many may ask me, well, Danny, money's not on there. That's because money isn't in the Mount Rushmore of success. Money simply buys you time and freedom to be able to develop yourself and to be able to enjoy yourself with the people that you love. And so as you're out there building your business, guys, model your lead generation after what really makes you happy and what can make you all the money in the world without having to give up any of those five. Sound fair?
I love that. Very fair. So talk just a little bit about how you would find your, actually someone's asking what number three was. It was enlightenment.
Enlightenment. Yeah, enlightenment.
Okay. Yeah. So just very, very quickly. So tell us this, how do you keep yourself centered? Right. I mean, I've seen a handful of things where you're meditating, you're doing some yoga, but I mean, just take us through a day of Danny Morel, or what you would encourage an agent to do to just find that center inside of them to really work from within so that they can be extraordinary outside of themselves. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I'll give you a great example of that, George. I think you first got to find out what you really must have in your life in order to be happy. Must have. And there's a difference between must have and want. So for example, a brand new Mercedes is a want. A gold Rolex is a want.
Right.
Maybe even 100 sales a year is a want. But what I must have in my life, I started to identify more and more and more with, and I started to realize the things that I must have in my life in order for me to be fulfilled. And you know what happened, George? Instead of living this life in my mind where I was constantly chasing 20 years from now, I started realizing, oh my God, what I really must have in my life to be happy, I could probably get that in the next 6-7 months. Like, I'm not that far away.
Right,
so you know what I'm saying? And so I started to realize, George, the amount of money that I must have in my life in order to be happy. Where before, coming from poverty, I wanted to be a billionaire. No, to be quite honest with you, a couple $1 million in the bank at an 8% interest, I'm good. Does this make sense? And you start looking
totally.
Yeah. And you start looking at
So Danny, to that point, yesterday I came and I wrote in my journal, and I just simply wrote these words: what do I love to do?
Yeah.
Right. Just simply, right. what do I love about my life? And I realize it doesn't take a lot of economics to just have what I truly, truly love and desire at a deep level that gives fulfillment, brings happiness, brings joy.
Right.
It's pretty crazy how we get so fixated on things so far out there that we lose consciousness of the present. I think you and I in our past have been very wired that way. You're probably,
That's right.
you're way down the path than me, but I can identify. I think it's also why we've identified and been so close over the years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, if you're out there watching, what's one thing that you must have to feel happy? Just type it in right now.
I like how you're saying that. That's a better way. What must I have versus
must have.
I wrote down what I love. That's a much better question.
Yeah, must have. Like somebody says peace. Absolutely. Like George, for me, I must have organic food. I must have, I can't go without it. So I'm building a little vegetable garden in my home to produce my own organic food. Somebody said relationships. I must have relationships, right? For me, George, I must be able to wake up every single day and exercise and do some yoga on my terms. Not at 4 a.m, not at some hour that somebody else says that I have to, on my terms. So I start building my business in such a way. I must have a certain amount in the bank earning me at a certain percentage interest to pay me what I need to live so that I could work because I want to, not because I have to. Anita says exercise. Beautiful. You see?
Right. Exactly.
You see? And so that's how it happens. And so George, earlier you asked me this question. You said, how do you get people to start doing it once they realize it? Well, I think problem number one is really, George, I think you could put 1,000 agents in the room and 999 of them don't know what they must have. That's problem number one. Because if you realize what you must have, really what makes your heart happy, what you are really going after and working for, then you could put together a nice little business plan, right? Or a big business plan that helps you to achieve it. And then all of the pressure that you felt to go out and do what you needed to do before goes away. Why? Because you have a plan and you're going to execute that plan for 10 years. And at the end of the 10-year mark, you're going to go ahead and have a certain amount in the bank, which by the way, makes you financially smarter and wiser all of a sudden, because now you're going for something that matters to you, which is freedom. Freedom, the ability to live a free life. And the only way you get freedom in this business is through 3 pillars. First is generate, which we spoke about. The second, George, you got to be able to convert leads. You got to be able to convert leads. You got to be able to convert leads. So many in our industry just wing it. And as a result of winging it, here's what happens. We are an option out there. I'm going to say this again. We're an option. And I'll prove it to you. You go on a listing presentation and you hear something along the lines like, you know what? Let me go ahead and think about it. Let me go ahead and think about it, right? What the client is really telling you is you're an option. Or they'll tell you something along the lines of, you know what? I've got a couple of other people that I want to meet. Here's what the client is telling you. You're an option in their eyes. George, I got to tell you right now that our clients and really ourselves, so forth and so on, that are winning right now, we're not seen as an option. We're seen in demand. Your company is not an option for people that want to grow. Your company is in demand because you provide the training and the leadership that some of these people need and really crave. Does this make sense?
Yes, very. I love that.
Yeah. And so as a salesperson, if you don't know how to convert, right? And if you don't know how to adapt right now, your message, your marketing on social media, your line on the phone. I'm literally, George, about to run an ad right now. I hope this doesn't bother you, but I'm going to run an ad right now on Instagram and Facebook right now that says, when do you plan on interviewing the right agent for the job of selling your home? That's probably the last thing you should be asking anybody right now that's an expired listing.
Right.
Because you're going to get hung up on. You see, if you're not ready to adapt or if you're not willing to adapt, right, people need a little bit more compassion right now. People need a little bit more empathy right now. People are going through some serious things right now, you know?
Right.
And so a question
all about
like
the tone and the message and the tone.
Absolutely, you know? And so that's a great little segment there. If you have not been working on your skills, and you do not know how to adapt and sell during this market right now, chances are you're going to have a little bit of a tough time getting to that freedom in an efficient manner. And then, George, the final pillar, number 3, the first one is generate. The second one is convert. The third is present. Present. You got to be able to present right now virtually. Your skills, your energy, your process has to be the type of skill, energy, and process that can relate and convert and close, whether you're in front of someone or you're on Zoom. People have got to feel.
So talk about this. How do they learn to do those things? How do they become, because most, you know this, look, because most of the business is about either, hey, let's go out and buy some business, right? And yes, you can have some conversion process, but it's still very low if you don't have a skill set. Number 2 is you can go out and just simply wait for the business to happen, which in today's market, you're going to get absolutely slaughtered. Or the third is to go out and get it. So how do you go about that? What would you counsel someone to do in today's marketplace?
What I would say. Yeah, that's a great question. Here's what I would say. Things that were not, is that link ready, by the way? Okay. Things that were an option before, they're no longer an option now. I'll give you an example, George. One of my goals, it's on my vision board. One of the things that I must have, these are all my must-haves right here. I must have the ability to play the guitar. I must. I know it may seem a little quirky to somebody else.
All right, I want to hear you, Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah, that's right. And so watch this. I don't know if you've ever tried this, guys, but playing the guitar, man, much respect if you're a guitar player. It's the most difficult thing I've ever done. Selling came pretty easy to me. Playing a guitar, it's been a little bit tough. And so I have to practice that every single day. I've got to practice and I've got to work on it and I've got to there and you haven't.
Oh, there.
Yeah.
If you're back.
If you're out there and you haven't been practicing and you've been winging it, man, oh man, right now you're starting to feeling it, right? Because I could choose to wing it when it comes to learning the guitar, or I could make sure that I budget 30 minutes a day, just like I would with role play, to make sure that my fingers get used to the chords and my fingers get used to playing. See, the reality is, George, for a lot of our agents and a lot of the people in the industry, they haven't chosen to do that. Our groups are different because we provide that for them.
I agree.
Right? But I would say that they need to take that way more seriously right now. That's the key. The more confident you are in the words, the more confident you'll be with the tonality, the more confident you'll be with the energy.
I love that. So, Danny, this is great. I'm loving this. So tell me what you and I had a great conversation a few weeks ago. You've learned, it's one of my favorite things to hear. What have you learned over the last several weeks? I guess more like about 5 weeks specifically. What have you learned? I say the 5 weeks, meaning the COVID time and the quarantine time, and the governor of California saying, "Hey, you're not essential. Now you are essential." Then for us, we had Ventura County, their health department shut it all down again, and then we came back again. I mean, what have you learned through all of this?
I've learned that everything that I believed was true. I've learned that there's a reason why I cut off my cable and I no longer have it in my house. I've learned that no outside influence can control my mental or energetic or emotional state. I've learned that as long as I work on myself and make that my priority, that nothing can affect me. George, I'll be honest, this may sound crazy. I don't know what's going on. By the way. Yeah, I don't know what's going on out there. I have no idea. I don't know if we're essential, non-essential.
Like yesterday, someone yesterday wanted to show me a video, and I went, "Stop. I have no interest, period, in hearing about what the virus is doing."
Absolutely.
Because I know what I'm doing.
I know what I'm doing.
And they're not going to dictate what I'm doing.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the key. That's what I've learned. What I've learned is that there's 2 types of people, and there's people that work on and fortify their mind, body, and soul every single day. Every single day. And there's those that don't. And so I've learned that everything that I've been preparing for over the last year or so, right, has been preparing me for these moments to lead, to adapt, to expand, to grow, and more than anything, to help people, And I've also learned, like I said before, that this is just a major magnifying glass as to how we handle the normal occurrences of day-to-day life and business. I really have. Yeah.
I love that. Hey, so tell me, what do you think the future of real estate looks like? Is it a U? Is it a hockey stick recovery? How long is this going to last? What would be your take, and what would be your spin to, there's two things. There's the real estate market recovery, but you and I both know that there is a agent mentality and action recovery.
Right.
So speak to that just a little bit. What do you think the future holds? To your point, I love it, man. You said either it's going to be I guess I wrote it on the other page. You said it's either going to be something extraordinary or something it's going to be great, or it's going to be a big obstacle.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I would say for us, we have been in the process of redeveloping ourselves. And there's been little bits and pieces that I didn't know how to necessarily put together. This thing just put it all together and handed it to me on a silver freaking platter. This is the greatest thing that could have happened. The greatest thing that could have happened.
Yeah, lots of good things from this.
Absolutely.
Many.
Absolutely. I would say that for people in our groups, because even in our groups, there's people who choose to plug in, and they're 100% plugged in. And they're there at every meeting, and they're there at every training, and they're there learning and grabbing it all, and they're taking notes right now. I would say for those people, just by osmosis, by being around us, they're about to grow right now. I genuinely believe that. And then I would say that there's everybody else. I would say that there's people who are trying to go at this thing for themselves. I would say that there's people out there trying to figure it out for themselves. I would say that there's people outside of our companies right now that have always been afraid of making themselves better. I would say that there's people that have been afraid of using scripts, afraid of presenting, afraid of putting in the work. I would be very, very, very afraid if I was those people right now. I really would be. I agree. I think there's going to be a lot of people out of the business in less than 3 to 6 months. I really do believe that. And then George, I will say this. My greatest month as a real estate agent, I signed 17 contracts. I took 12 listings and I opened 5 buyers. That was my greatest month. Well, I'm going to admit something to you. I had been kind of coasting recently. And this month I said, no, forget that. I'm going out there. And I'm going out there and I'm going to put myself out there. I'm at 18 contracts signed for the month. Now, this is important. It's important because people like you and I, we're at the forefront leading the way. And that's why if you're an agent at this company right now, I got to tell you something, you're at the right place at the right time. Because it's different when the people who are leading you can actually sell, can actually produce, can actually perform. And I would say that that's the greatest message and the greatest thing that I see. I would say that people like us and people in our organizations, we're about to grow, and we're about to grow massively right now. I would be doubling and tripling down on mindset and work ethic right now more than ever before.
I love that. Well, thank you. Thank you for the props. Lots of great comments, like from Gabrielle and Hernandez. And it's been fun to just watch people's excitement for what you're sharing, and just even in the chat box. So one of the things I've said these 3 words a lot, and that is that I really believe right now that the key is to identify where you need to heal. Clean the area, right? So let's just say you go into the hospital, you get a big gash in your hand. What do? They're like, well, you know what? We need to scrub this thing out, clean it out, clear it out. And they'll do that so that the healing can occur after the gash. And then you're poised for all of that growth, right? So to your point is that growth is a huge component with everything that's happening. But you have to be so committed mentally and emotionally to figuring things out.
Yeah.
And getting conscious, getting mindful, becoming aware. Because if we don't, then the fact is we're never going to get where we want to go, and we'll never grow into the person, the being, or the presence that we really want to shape our lives by.
It's so, Jory, I'll get a little personal. By the way, I'm an open book. Anybody could ask me anything they want about me or my life. But I just recently went through a divorce. It was nothing that I was expecting. It was nothing that I was planning for. Heck, if there's any human being on planet Earth who ever knew he would never get divorced, that would be me. That would be me. And yet, at one point in time, I finally had to wake up and realize that I was unhappy as a human being. I kind of knew it before, but because of programming and because of society and because of what people are going to think, so forth and so on, I didn't want to deal with that. I didn't want to deal with it. And so when I kind of have to step away, and I literally lived in a little apartment for about a year and a half, there were nights, there were times during that time period where George, I literally just cried. I just cried for like the whole night, because it was like I needed to just go through what I needed to go through. I needed to be by myself. I needed to heal myself, right? I needed to heal that man that needed so much attention, that man that needed so much power, that man that needed so much competition in his life, you know? I needed to heal that to find out who I really was and really tap into my heart. And if it wasn't from that healing and my spiritual journey, I don't think I'd be here right now. I'd be a mess right now is where I'd be, quite frankly.
Well, congratulations. I love the fact of what you're talking about. And I know many people have commented, just seeing your journey and have been inspired by it, Danny. You are an amazing and a wonderful voice to many, many people. And a success.
I appreciate
right?
that.
And each one of us maybe determine success differently, but the success I'm seeing is an individual who feels very whole and full of light and is bright, and not only enjoying their own life and enjoying their children, as I know you do, but also having the ability to impact others, to bring that same similar light that all of us are destined and should have within ourselves. It's great.
Absolutely.
I love it, man.
Absolutely.
So cool to hear. So good to hear.
Yeah. And I could just honestly share, I mean, gosh, I mean, just the way I saw life before was, you know, I remember, you know, is an interesting story. And then I've got to run here in about 5 minutes, but it's an interesting story. I remember one year I took 380 people to Mike's event, to the Superstar Retreat.
Right.
And Mike knew to feed my ego. You know, he put a big old sign. He gave us our private entrance. And George, I was walking around like Mr. Big Wig.
I remember. He even tried to get me to compete with it. And I'm like, I've only got 200 here.
I know. And it's just so interesting. Yep. It's like now, George, I could care less, man. I legitimately could care less. Like, the things that used to drive me are gone. They're just gone from my heart. They're gone from my spirit. I was way more mean-spirited back then. But the reason why, there was just a lot of pain. There was a lot of pain. And until people learn to go deep and deal with that pain, you'll never really find out who you really are or what your true potential really is.
Well, to your point, Danny, as we wrap up, and I want you to give us your last thought, but I always say that this is an inside business, and this business, real estate itself, is about working from the inside out. And over the many years, I've had agents come and go, hey, I don't want to work on me. I just want to sell more real estate. And I'm like, and that's the problem. You're not going to sell almost any real estate until you work on you.
Right.
And if you're lucky enough, you might get by. But the real work in this business is on the inside. And that's the beauty. And we've said this for years within our organization, is that we're a personal development company that happens to sell real estate. And I don't care if we were selling widgets or real estate. It doesn't matter to me one iota, because what I'm most interested in is the well-being, the evolution, the creation, the fulfillment, the beauty of who people become. So I love it. So, hey, so in closing, Danny, give us just your last thoughts. What counsel, what advice, what would you give? I can feel that, you know, you've been such a warrior in your life. And I've had this statement go, I can be warrior and gladiator, and there's a time for that, but I can feel a tremendous amount of love and brightness and beauty. And that's what I keep echoing to people. Man, what if you were just to answer the phone and say, how can I help you? How can I help you? Instead of not what's in it for me, just how can I help you? So what advice would you give in closing up and wrap us up?
I'll give you two pieces of advice. This is for all of you out there, because I actually see some familiar names like just kind of popping through.
Hey, Jesus Landgren over there. Hey, you know Jesus.
I do know. He's a great guy.
And yep, he's with the company. One of our dear friends, kicking butt, taking names.
Yeah. So here's two pieces of advice. Number one, you operate and make decisions from only one of two forces. love or fear. That's it. End of story. And if you look at our society, and if you look at even most of our coaches, most of our celebrity, most of our flashy people online and on social media, you know, we as a society are so driven to gain material possession. We admire people with Lamborghinis and, you know, all this stuff. I'm going to tell you right now, typically what I have found now that I'm conscious and awake is that most of the individuals on this planet who go after and crave material possession and crave power of that nature are some of the most deeply insecure people available on planet Earth right now. They're operating from fear. They're operating from fear. Competition is operating from fear, right? I want you to really
create versus creation. Create.
Absolutely. Go out and create, right? If you're able to create, the soul creates. The mind doubts. Write that one down. The soul creates, the mind doubts. The mind is fear, the soul and the heart is love. So that's number one. The second thing that I would tell you is if I look at, because I'm back, you know, I'm back, I'm selling, I'm over here. I've got let's see, I've got my little sheet of paper with my goals for April, and I started this with just blank slots. I wanted to bring in 10 new recruits to the company. I have 9. I'll finish with 11. I wanted to sign up 4 people in my nationwide mastermind for agents. I signed up 2, and then I wanted to sign up 3 for my other program, and I signed up 7. So this is like 18 contracts that I've signed. This is the biggest piece of advice I can give you. I never thought about the money once, nor do I care, nor do I give a damn about the money. George, it doesn't even affect me. I live on a salary. I get paid a salary, just like I teach all of my top people to do. So whatever money that comes in, everybody, I don't go to the bank. I don't worry about it. I don't stress about it. I don't touch it. It's a non-issue in my life. Get to that point in your life as soon as humanly possible. Because the reason why you should be selling people into you, the reason why I recruit people into my company, the reason why I recruit people into my coaching program has nothing to do with money. It has 100% to do with the fact that I know people will be happier and more productive around me than without me. And that's the same way you can believe, and it's the same thing that you can think. But in order to ever get there, you've got to get rid of this money consciousness. Because if not, people will always be able to feel that. And that's when your sales will become effortless. George, this was effortless. I mean, I wish I could tell you it was effortless, like literally effortless. And it's just because people are just being attracted right now. Those are the two greatest pieces of advice.
But you first and foremost, right, set an intention of what was going to happen. But your consciousness was about making a difference in the lives of people, not how much money can I earn.
Right.
Different energy, as we all know, totally different energy.
Totally different energy. And I do have years of skills training to be able to make efficient sales conversions.
Of course. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You're not an overnight success. You've been doing this for 24 plus years, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you've worked hard. You've worked hard. Well, Danny, 1, thank you for your time. Number 2, how can they get a hold of you if they want to have a further conversation and see what you're all about?
Yeah, the easiest way is Instagram. I'm on there all the time, Instagram.com/Danny Morel. Or if you'd like to know a little bit about our coaching services, just go to DannyMorel.com/coaching, or just DannyMorel.com. I've got a bunch of all the books that I recommend. Sure. Everything is there on my website.
Awesome, brother. Hey, it is a pleasure. I consider you one of my dear friends in the industry, and I wish we had more time and we could spend more time together. Thank you for making a difference in the lives of a lot of people, and I know you're continuing to do that. And I know one of the things that I watching your interviews, your Relentless program, the interview you did with Kobe Bryant. You know, what a blessing now as we look back over that time. So just thank you for being who you are. Thank you for the strength you're bringing to the industry and the professional and the leader and just the man that you are. It's awesome.
Absolutely. You got it. Take care, everybody. I hope to see you guys soon.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks so much, Danny.
Yep, you got it. Bye-bye.